A leader in event education, the Event Leadership Institute offers on-demand video classes, interviews with industry mavericks, and online instructor-led professional development courses taught by industry experts. Visit eventleadershipinstitute.com for more information and to see a schedule of upcoming classes.
Are you a follower? Okay, so we're gonna call the ad.
Welcome to GatherGeeks, a podcast by BizBash, the place where people passionate about meetings and events come together. Here are your hosts, BizBash CEO David Adler and Executive Editor Beth Kormanik.
Hi, David.
Hey, Beth, how are you today?
I'm terrific, and I'm so excited for the conversation we have for our listeners today because we're speaking with Carol Muldoon. She's a managing director at KPMG. Her responsibilities include overseeing the firm's events and management team, and she sat down with us on the occasion of that team being inducted into BizBash's Hall of Fame. KPMG is a full in-house model, which encompasses everything from sourcing and contracting to event design and delivery to data analytics and digital solutions. I mean, everything. And this team is about 100 people. They work on thousands of events each year of all types and sizes. So, David, this is really a company that is invested in face-to-face meetings and events.
Yeah, these are the guys that are really trying to build on innovation, even though they have this existing structure. And that's what I found so interesting about it, that they're trying harder than ever. And it's an ongoing experiment that they're doing. They're trying to continually to innovate. They have their practitioners, their people that are the professionals in the accounting world are also embracing face-to-face. And they're seeing this as an absolute way to do it right.
Right. And speaking of structures, we're also going to hear about the firm's plans for an 800,000 square foot learning and innovation facility that's under construction right now in Orlando. And that's just another sign of the firm's investment in face-to-face.
Well, training is so hot.
Right. Exactly. We're seeing a lot of investment in that area. So it's not surprising that they're doing this. Maybe the scale of it is unprecedented or, in a league of its own. Well, Carol has been with KPMG for more than 30 years, but has experience in other areas of the events landscape. So she really has this long-term perspective that spans industries that can be useful to our listeners. So let's get to it.
Yep.
Well, Carol, thanks for joining us today. Give everybody listening a sense of the scope of your events program, because I think that will really surprise a lot of our listeners.
Yeah, great. Thanks so much for having us. And KPMG is honored to really collaborate with BizBash on this. So our team, number one, is unique in that it's fully in-house. So we have 120 professionals, and those roles span strategic sourcing, event management, production, video production. We have our own studio and we create videos for our programming. Certainly a data and analytics team. Don't forget we're an accounting firm. And so the ability to gather metrics and demonstrate our value in that perspective. And then we have really an internal support operations team that is the glue behind our success. So the scope of what we do is every program for KPMG, whether it be a client-facing event where we're bringing together our clients or our targets to demonstrate that KPMG might be a thought leader in some aspect of what's going on in the world today, or whether it be for our own employees, from a training perspective, from a camaraderie building perspective, from an ideation perspective, just bringing people together to share ideas and hopefully come up with some problems. All of those events engage our events and meetings team.
But is the purpose, the whole strategy is to really engage your customers, to make them feel the hug and the love and the education and things like that, right? I mean, this is really, your customers are individuals or corporations, and you're the extension of their sales arm, really, right?
So when you say our customers, I would say from our event and meeting team perspective, our customers are certainly our firm's clients.
Right.
but certainly our internal folks as well, because many of the programs we do are focused on our own people. And yes, we want them to feel engaged. We want them to feel appreciated. We want them to understand the investment that's being made in them. So it's really whatever the objective is. And I think a pillar of our success over the years has been just that. We're an in-house team. We have relationship with the stakeholders, and we're able to really get to what is the objective of hosting this program, this event, this meeting, this training session. And that's a key part of what the role of our team is. So the core
values of the company, it's very interesting that the core values of your company uses face-to-face as such a strategic tool, right? And has that always been the case?
I think it's always been the case. Over the years, we've certainly also leveraged technology to have a blended model.
Right.
And that's with our clients as well as with our own people. We have a very robust webcast program series that Events and Meetings manages. So, we try to leverage that, but we definitely see the value of face-to-face. I mean, I'm not sure if you're aware, but our firm has just announced, as a matter of fact, earlier this week was our groundbreaking. We're building a 800,000 square foot learning and innovation facility for our people.
Where?
In Orlando.
Wow.
In Orlando, in Lake Nona, which is right outside the airport in Orlando. And that investment is not just in our people, but it's also an investment, quite frankly, in the value of face-to-face events and the value of the networking and the collaboration and how do you truly innovate and come to problem solve. There's a lot you can learn through web-based and leveraging different technologies, but you can never do away with that in person.
And the people in your company that are the partners and the people like that, they've embraced face-to-face too, right?
They've totally embraced it.
Yeah.
And, it's why we have so many programs. This year we've done 2,500 programs. 2,500, yeah. And that ranges in size from the small CEO level, 25 person, all the way up to programs of a few thousand. And, it's up to us to really leverage what are the new technologies that enhance the participant, the attendee experience. How do we help facilitate the connections? As well as we still need that nuts and bolts, project management, food, culinary expertise to ensure that experience, it's like all the things we almost take for granted. We have to have expertise in that. And I think that's almost a core of what so many on our team have.
So you mentioned data and metrics. How has that changed what you're measuring and what gives the ROI? What does that look like now?
Yeah, so I think we were an early adopter of technology, even from the early days of beginning with online registration to, a star site technology. Now we're a Cvent user in the sense of, that using one consistent platform across every event or meeting that we do, we are able to set up some, key metrics up front that we can measure afterwards. And it could range from everything from our target audience that we want to gather and how successful we are, to we capture that in our CRM system, our customer relationship management system, ongoing. How many more touch points did we get from bringing people together in that face-to-face environment? So, those are almost always two of the key metrics. But, don't forget we're an accounting firm, and that's important. And so right from the beginning, we have our own internal strategic sourcing team. So we capture all of the negotiations.
You're going to buy right.
Yeah, we are certainly going to buy right. And, again, for the many venues out there, they're buying direct from the customer.
Right.
They're not going through maybe intermediaries, who I think play a very important role, but they're usually very excited that they're hearing up front what the customer needs are, when the decisions we made, what are the influential points that will, be driving the ultimate choice of venue. So we also track, things such as On site, we're doing more with social, especially because we have a lot of younger people in our firm who are attending these. So how many tweets that are going out from the program, how many connections people are making. So, I think that's evolving.
Is that hiring data scientists and things like that? That's a new part of our industry.
New part of every industry.
Have you been able to hire effectively and have them fit into that role, or is it something that's an evolutionary thing that's going on?
So I think as we've begun, we first thought we could take people whose background really was in the event creation space, and they think differently than the people we needed in the data analytics space and really that measurement of ROI. So what we did internally is we sought people with different skill sets, but they're still part of the events and meetings organization. And so they had to come to learn certain aspects of events and meetings.
And you see that? So you see them adapting to the whole thing, or is it something where they have to sort of go to the events and be part of it to feel it?
That's part of their training.
Yeah.
That's part of their training. Anyone who comes into our organization, even if they're not in like a delivery role, they have to go on site to a few programs. So, they envision how the space is used. They envision when we track things, where they envision, how we interact with a venue, with a hotel, and even in the evenings when we're, checking all of the spend for that day. And so they really get the whole picture. And I think that's again critical. We have the luxury of that because we have an in-house team.
Mm-hmm. Well, you also have a group that just looks at innovation and events.
Yeah.
What kind of innovations are you doing? What are you thinking about?
Well, so that's only, it's less than 2 years old. And, we really felt that we had a team who wanted to keep stretching the boundaries, but it was kind of hard to do on the side. So they were always so busy with the events that they were working, with our internal stakeholders or our client groups, and, that have a good idea, and, we'd try to have people focus on it. So we finally said, you know what, let's bite the bullet, and we started small with just 2 people. Now we have 6 people who are really focusing on what's new out there. It could be technology, and a lot of it is pushing the technology envelope. But it's also just ways that we are engaging people, whether it be through meal functions, and whether it be through how we're setting up the rooms, right? That are now facilitating more of that collaborative environment. But certainly with technology, as for a lot of our training programs, there are a lot of compliance factors with regards to credits that our professionals need to receive. And right now, it has been a pretty cumbersome process. And so we're looking where our technology is using more beacon technology. It has definitely improved the whole welcoming experience when people arrive on site. We build mobile apps for every single one of our client-facing programs and our larger internal programs, which right beforehand we launch it. So we're allowing people the opportunity to start connecting. We push out data during the meetings. We use that mobile app for constant dialogue with the speakers. So, our goal is really, again, experience.
How do you get the innovation team to interact with your plug and chug regular group teams?
Okay, so they're all part of events and meetings. So again, we try not to be as siloed. We have lots of cross teaming that goes on. But I think one of the successes, and my colleague Tammy Benedict really has led this effort.
No, I was on a panel with her. She is smart.
She's very smart, and she never thinks in the box.
No.
She's always thinking out of the box, which is great. Yeah. And I think that's good because she stretches everyone. But she formed a innovation council across our events and meetings organization. Like? So it's made up about 12 people, and they've really, I think this team has almost been given the permission to go out and try things, even if if they don't work. It's okay. Like, you have to have, if you're going to have an innovative environment where people feel it's okay to try things, I think you have to, as leadership, be willing to know there's a risk in that. But hopefully, ideas they're going to come to the table with.
How do you find the people in the past? How does that sort of people volunteer, or are they just you know it when you know it?
We began with volunteers, and we had way too many people at first. So because people were really like, I see this at a conference I'm at, or I read about this, or and how could we try this out? And again, we never really had the time. So this team has begun building deeper relationships in the industry with a lot of the technology companies that maybe we weren't engaged with. But what I love what's happening is how when they are together, and they come together in person as well as virtually, but the amount of sharing that's going on, and one idea is building on another idea. And quite frankly, as KPMG employees, they feel more committed to our firm because they're in an environment where they could let their creative juices go and they could, try things out.
So because of the volume of your events, you are a significant purchaser.
Yes, we are.
What grabs your attention from a company? Talk to our suppliers out there, from either a venue or any other kind of supplier to your meetings. What's catching your eye? What do they do to best serve you?
And I will say, I'll share with you what I think catches our eye, but I think sometimes technology has become a little bit of a hindrance of this, right? Because now a lot of the buying is only through technology. And if you lose that face-to-face, and if you lose that ability to build relationship and really learn and understand, then, I think then we're going backwards, right? So things that attract us, and we feel we are an organization that invests time in relationship building. So number one, we still invite on a weekly basis venues and different vendors, suppliers, to come in and meet with our team in person.
Wow.
We still block time every single week for that, which I think is really important. But so what are some of the things when we first are meeting with a venue or a vendor? We hope they did their homework and they understand who we are. Not only who we are as an organization, meaning the firm, but also as an events and meetings department. And there's nothing more frustrating when they come in and they really have not done any homework. They really don't have any sense of the scope of what you do. I mean, I think KPMG is out there. We're very engaged in the industry in many different fronts. Individuals. There's a lot of ways to come to know what KPMG does. So that's the first thing, those who come in and really understand. The other thing, quite frankly, is how they do business. So you mentioned our core values before, and I think that's really, really important. So I am very proud that our team, I think, is very ethical. I think that they're very professional, and we expect those who we do business with to be the same way. And so sometimes, culturally, when you do take the time to meet, you kind of mesh. And again, just like I described with our Innovation Council, it's almost the same way when we're working with a hotel or a private venue or a production company. It's like we all shake our heads like,
you
yeah,
also
they get
expect
it.
direct relationships and not lots of middlemen that are taking pieces everywhere. Is that?
You're correct. We don't really do a lot with middlemen.
Yeah, and is that a changing ethic in our whole industry, you think, for big corporations especially?
I think it's I don't think
it's already done.
I don't think. I think unfortunately, no. I was going to say the opposite. I think unfortunately, so many large organizations are very reliant on.
Oh, that's interesting.
Intermediaries.
Interesting.
And I think that there's a risk to our industry. Not to say that intermediary. I think they play a great role, but for a large organization not to understand the deeper value of having their own who are connected to their organization, understand their culture, their values, their business objectives, and can really influence and bring value. As more and more large organizations are shrinking their internal teams.
So do you think that the outsource concept is not in the long run serving the needs of a company?
I think it can in for certain companies,
right.
But I think for the industry at large, and even honestly, I was chatting with Brittany out there, who loves working for BizBash.
Yes, we love Brittany.
Yeah, she thinks she's really been given such great opportunity and experience. And as we hire people on our team, sometimes we'll bring in people who their background mostly is maybe working for intermediaries. Okay, the strength, they've worked across many industries, different types of organizations. We see, though, once they get inside, that deep connection with the firm or the business objectives, I haven't seen as strong.
But you're all on one mission, as opposed to
the firm's success impacts my success.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying that could apply across the board too, but
that's interesting.
So I worry about that a little bit. I do worry about that, but
well, the passion for the job dissipates if you have many masters.
Yeah, many masters, and if you're really not engaged. Our team right now, I could ask my CEO of a 30,000 person firm, and she'd probably be able to name good percent, maybe not half, a good percent of the people on my team by name.
Well, that's because your team also is so visible, right?
We're visible, we're engaged, we're brought in at that early stage of strategizing on what the objectives are. Why are we investing funds and people's time in this? And so that is a differentiator. I report to the CFO of the firm. We've
tell
had
us what's your journey, Carol? What is you obviously are a believer.
I'm a believer.
What was your journey in this to get this job, and how long have you been there?
Well, so next month I'm with KPMG 31 years.
Oh my God!
Congratulations.
31 years, and
you haven't lost one bit of enthusiasm. I can tell.
But you know what? It grows in me because of the team we have, and so when you're with them, they really love their jobs. They work hard, just like, anybody, any event professional, but they really love their jobs. They feel recognized. They feel they're contributing. And I think that's really, really important. My journey is, prior to KPMG, I worked nonprofit for the Muscular Dystrophy Association, doing events for a few years. The Jerry Lewis Telethon I did for a few years, right? Then I switched over, had an opportunity with KPMG. It was Pete Mark Mitchell at the time, many, many years ago. You probably don't remember that, but you do, right?
Yes, of course.
Yes, but and in training. It was small training seminars, and it did give me the real core groundwork of working with hotels, because we did so many small training seminars, and they were all at hotels. So learning the country, learning the hotel industry, building those relationships. This is before computers. This is before cell phones. So, you would get on the phone or you would do a site visit, and you really bonded, because your program, in so many cases, the success of it was so dependent on that professional that you were dealing with. So, and just through the years, I've stayed at KPMG because my journey has allowed me to touch so many aspects of the hospitality industry, from training and then meeting planning to I was one of the people who started our corporate travel program, so learning the kind of travel side of the business. At one point, KPMG had 3 conference centers. I managed one of the conference centers. So over the years...
Is it deja vu all over again now that you're building the facility?
And I'm very involved in that. Yeah, but this one is...
you must be designing it with a lot of thoughtfulness.
Definitely the mothership.
Is it? The design must be critical.
It's again, because we can hire people to build a hotel or a learning center, but we want a cultural home for KPMG folks.
That's so interesting.
Someplace that they'll come together, and they're going to learn whatever they need to learn, but they're going to learn so much more from peer learning and engaging with clients, engaging with partners, and hopefully really building those relationships that are going to stay with them for the rest of their career, whether they're with KPMG or not. And that's what our culture is about.
And when does this open?
Not till the end of 19, early 20.
Well.
So I have one last question.
Yeah.
You're hiring lots of professional event organizers, event people. What is your blink analysis of somebody that that's going to go to the next step when the first time you interview somebody?
Yeah.
What is that essence?
You know what? You do feel it, right?
After
being an interviewer of people for
in a minute that one's
years.
No, this one.
Yeah, you do feel it. Passion has to be there.
Yeah.
And I think you could feel passion. The kind of the open-mindedness that this is not the way it goes. So we don't really gravitate to those black and white people who get uncomfortable when they're being stretched. So we don't look for people who this is my job description. So when someone comes in for an interview and they have that job posting and they want to go line by line, I get a little worried about that, because I don't think there's anyone in this industry who can say, this is what I do. We do whatever needs to be done, right? And whatever to contribute and elevate the program. So, I think those are some of the things that I hone in on, just as they're talking to you about their experience, both. And I don't mean experience, because I'm not one to go through a resume, but just in life.
Yeah,
but in life, even what they choose outside of their workspace to be engaged in, and what kind of roles they play. What do they think about mentorship? How have they leveraged mentors in their career? If there's somebody new just out of school, I think that love of learning and that feeling of, I want to come to KPMG because, oh my God, there's so much opportunity here. And in your team, there's so much opportunity. So I think those are the things that you feel. Right. I think project management skills, though, are critical. I think there's a gap sometimes in those skills. Communication skills. I do sometimes worry with some of the younger people that, good core communication skills are essential, are critical. It's almost like the event planning, event management are almost like, you have to say that's a given. That's like a given. Right. Or these other qualities, right? And sense of team.
Right.
I don't care who's on the team, whether it be your own internal team, whether it be the suppliers you're working with, whether it be, quite frankly, even your attendees. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Carol, congratulations to KPMG on the induction to BizBash Hall of Fame. And before we let you go, please tell us how people can get in touch with the firm and learn about your events team.
Yeah, so certainly I'm on LinkedIn, as well as many of the leaders from KPMG, but feel free to reach out, and I'm always happy to connect, always.
David, Carol shared part of the strategy and thinking that goes into having an in-house planning team, and she made the case for the value of relationships between planners and event industry suppliers. Not everyone goes this route. I'm wondering what you took from her perspective on that.
Well, I think that, they're investing in the people and knowing who the people are at their events, as well as their vendors. And by knowing the complete ecosystem of an event, you're getting more value. All these people we're hearing about, they're outsourcing into event companies, which is great, but their model is to really embrace the whole ecosystem.
Right, and they do things like, as she mentioned, invite venues and vendors to meet with their entire team on a weekly basis. Well, by the time our listeners hear this, we will have wrapped our BizBash Live New York show, which is all about connecting planners and suppliers to the industry. So we're a big believer in building these relationships as well.
Yeah, and personally, I also believe that, when you do public relations and you hire an outside agency to do public relations, sometimes that's not the best way to go if the principal doesn't have the relationship with the media people. And it's kind of the same thing with events. And a practitioner at KPMG, for example, would actually want to know all the people that are coming into their event in a more intimate way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so interesting.
So Beth, tell us what's going on at BizBash.
Yeah, before we sign off, I wanted to mention that we just published our Chicago Top 100 event list. This comes out once a year, so check out the 2017 version to see which events made the cut. We have categories for art and architecture events, something Chicago is particularly known for, as well as benefits, sports events, trade shows, and more. So you can find that on bizbash.com.
And look at all the other Top 100 events that are all over the site. And it is like if you're a company and you're in the Fortune 500, it's that kind of feeling. And we really want to put these events front and center and make them feel like they're doing something incredible for their communities.
Truly, truly. Chicago is the most recent, but we have from earlier in the year, Los Angeles, New York, Miami, and South Florida. What else?
Toronto. And Canada.
All of Canada and all of the U.S. We can have these master lists. So fascinating reading. Great to see who is standing out from the crowd in all of those different areas. So bizbash.com.
Gather on, I guess we're supposed to say now.
Gather on.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. If you like what you're hearing, be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. We can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Player FM, Google Play, and Pocket Cast. Be sure to leave us a rating and review. It helps others discover the Gather Geeks podcast. We'd also love to hear from you. You can leave feedback on Twitter at GatherGeeks or leave us an email, gathergeeks@bizbash.com. We hope you'll join us again for the next episode of Gather Geeks. Until then, gather on. Invest in yourself and your staff with self-paced online event education designed to fit into your busy schedule. Subscribe to the Event Leadership Institute for only $25 per month and gain access to an extensive on-demand video library of classes, as well as interviews with industry leaders. Best of all, you can watch classes in small pieces or all at once. For more information, visit eventleadershipinstitute.com.